Hello everyone, and welcome to this portrait study painting process. Now, I normally start by collecting a reference photo. This one is from Unsplash, and then I go on to creating a preliminary sketch before I do a portrait study. And why do I do that? Well, a preliminary sketch serves as kind of a roadmap. It helps me to establish proportions and plan a composition. I usually won't go overboard with details for a portrait study. Rather, I will focus more on the parts of the face that I will be adding the most detail to. For instance, in this portrait, she's forward facing, so most of my attention will be focused on the eyes, the nose, and the lips. If it was a profile view, I would probably put more detail into the ear as well if it's visible. But anything that isn't part of the main focus, I will generally leave as more of an outline. Like for instance, the hair, the neck, the shirt. I'm not really going to put a lot of detail into those. I tend to prefer to sketch on paper and then transfer my sketch onto my canvas. And the reason I do this is it cuts down on unnecessary pencil marks and erasing that may be distracting during the painting process. And I can also choose the most important lines as my outline for the portrait painting itself. Once I have my sketch transferred onto my canvas, I go right into my oil paint. Now, you'll notice that the canvas isn't toned, there's no underpainting, and that's because this is a portrait study. It's not a serious painting. And the reason I paint smaller portrait studies as a practice is that it helps me to refine my skills. In addition, smaller studies allow me to experiment with color mixes without the commitment of a large canvas. And this is a really important practice for me. I want this to be relatively quick, so I will cut out a lot of the steps that I would normally take to create a more serious painting on a larger canvas. However, painting directly onto a pure white canvas does have some drawbacks. For instance, let's just look at the colors. They look really, really dark when you put them onto anything that's white. On a toned canvas, you can actually mix your colors and you'll get a better idea of the value and the hue that you want to put onto the canvas, but it really does kind of test you when you paint directly onto a white canvas. So I tend to exaggerate the colors in the first layer of a portrait. And exaggerating the colors in the first layer sets a more vibrant foundation that in turn will enhance the final work. Now, the vibrant foundation wouldn't necessarily work on a toned canvas because you would need white underneath it, especially if you're using more transparent layers. So that's kind of why I do the portrait studies in this way, is because I will get a more vibrant foundation. Bolder, more unrealistic colors will allow me to establish tonal relationships and play around with cool and warm tones. The first layer is more of a creative layer before refining details in the subsequent layers. I also use a limited palette in my portrait studies. I've actually gotten way more into using limited palettes lately because that's how I started, and once you kind of get into this mindset of like, ooh, a new color, I want to use that, ooh, another color, then it can get a little bit overwhelming when you put all of these paint colors onto your palette and you're trying to decide what colors you want to mix together in order to create whatever you're trying to create. So choosing just 3 primary colors plus burnt umber and titanium white is the way that I have been painting lately. Now, what I will often do in a second layer is I might add a couple of additional colors, especially if I want to glaze or work on cools and warms and that sort of thing. But for the first layer, I have just been sticking with a limited palette. This also will help me to keep up on my color mixing abilities because you can mix so many different colors with a limited palette. It's kind of crazy. So you don't always need to have a ton of different colors on your palette unless that's what you want to do. It also makes it a lot easier if you're traveling and painting and you don't have to carry so many different colors with you. I also use a quick drying oil medium in the form of Galca gel for this particular painting, but my other favorite is walnut alkyd medium by M. Graham. I just like the Galca gel when I'm doing smaller studies because it's kind of compact and you can just squeeze a little bit out onto your palette versus having to have some kind of cup to hold your walnut alkyd medium, which is much looser, and I find that to be a lot better for glazing large areas, and the Galca gel is better for spot glazing and that sort of thing. So once I get the first layer done, I wait until that layer has dried completely, which with the fast drying medium only takes a day or two, and then I start on with the second layer, and I mainly focus on refining certain areas. I don't refine the entire painting. In fact, I leave a lot of the hair and the surrounding areas alone. I don't even touch them. I just continue to refine the face, and this is where I can get more accurate skin tones. I can also put in the eyelashes and any of the details that I want to do, like the water lines in the eyes, and focusing more on strategically placed realism so I can let some of the other parts of the first layer show through in the finished work. I always consider portrait studies to be more about practice and less about perfection. So I like to let some of the first layer show through in a lot of my work, actually, because it prevents the painting from looking overly polished. It adds some texture and spontaneity. For example, the choice not to put another layer of paint on the hair, the ears, the neck, and the background basically brings the focus more to the facial features and conveys the process. So you can see those first layers within the outer parts of the painting. They look slightly unfinished, but then it will bring your eyes more towards the focal point, which is her intense gaze, and then the other prominent facial features. And hey, if you want to paint this portrait along with me, you can go to my Patreon where I have a full-length tutorial and I provide you with the reference photo as well as a PDF file of my line drawing that you can print out and trace right to an 11 by 14 inch canvas, which is the one that I am using for this painting. I also will show you different paint mixes in order to create your skin tones using a limited palette, and if that's something that interests you, head over to my Patreon. I'm going to be doing Portrait Study Tuesday every week, where I will pick a different portrait, and it could have darker skin tones, it could be from a different vantage point, whether it's a side profile or something interesting. I'm trying to find different interesting portraits which will test our color mixing abilities and also doing different angles of the face. So anyone who wants to practice portraits with me, head on over to Patreon and we'll have fun. So as this painting is almost completed, I want to say thank you so much for watching and for being here and for following me. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. I love you guys and see you next time. Bye.